Morning. I came this morning to Hypro, having a meeting this morning with Mr. Khalil Brown. This is Trevor Bernard, President of the Small Ruminants Association of Jamaica. And Khalil been having this discussion about purebred, full-bred, and all the different things that have been said, over the past couple of days. And
let me ask you the first question.
Yes, Mr. Brown.
You made a statement on your platform stating that you don't believe that there is any full-blood animals inside Jamaica. People asking for a context to say what make you make that statement. I have personally heard persons before said that there's a challenge for us to find what we consider full-blood. So it's nothing new. I don't think it's something that nobody has never said before.
Okay.
Can you give me a little
and
more
Mr.
clarity?
Ferran also...
No, Mr. Ferran, who would say probably the legend for this thing, himself has came out and said, boy, for us to trace back to this full-blood concept, it requires a lot. Where can we find it? We don't know. Give us people want a little bit more context on the statement. I would love for you to give the public that.
All right. So, it has been explained already what full-bred means. Full-bred means you have to trace it back to source. If we're talking about the boar, you have to trace the genetics right back to source, meaning to South African boar. Mm-hmm. That's full-bred. It has no other genetics in it but the boar, straight boar. Purebred is a bred up animal by percentages. You breed up, and I think it's maybe when you reach the 5th or the 6th genetics, in terms of the percentage, that you get a purebred boar. Now, it will always be 99 point something. It will never reach 100%. So a purebred is not 100% a boar animal until it's bred up. Now, over the years, I have been told that, and I have seen that we have brought in full-bred animals to this country. We have brought in full-bred animals, and we have brought in graded, and we have brought in purebred. All of those things have happened over the years. And with all of that, if you don't have proper record keeping, if you don't have proper record keeping and trace every single thing that you are doing on a daily on your farm, how will you be able to tell if what you have is purebred, full-bred, or graded? Mr. Brown?
I think that is a very valuable claim, and it's a statement that must make the farmers know from now. If we really plan to grow this industry, guys, we have to start clearly from scratch, because I think before us, we have missed some of the most important features. So I can first say, I don't think the association should be held responsible for what is purebred or what is full-bred. An association is different from a breeding society. In Jamaica, we have a cattle breeders society, a breed society for the Jamaica Hope, a breed society for the Jamaica Red Pole, a breed society for the Jamaica Brahma. I think the same thing should apply for the small ruminant industry. We have a breed society for the Nubians, a breed society for the boar goat, and a breed society for the Jamaican native animal. These are the persons now that will lead the charge, and their responsibility is one, to be custodians for the breed. So I, as the farmer, will say, guess what, as the breed society, Jamaican boar goat should look this particular way. We're going to define full-blood as an animal coming from the origin. But like in Canada, where they have the non-traditional, we'll have a purebred animal that we can call non-traditional. Probably a Jamaican farmer using native animal and breed it up with boars to get this outstanding looking boar per high percentage boar animal, but coming from native genetics. We could register that animal under a different category. But that's the responsibility of a breeding society, not the association.
That's correct. And, just to even continue, I want to say one more thing. Right now, there is this thing being talked about, and you mentioned the cattle society. There's this thing talking about that we as Jamaicans won't be able to manage that, and we as Jamaicans won't be able to do it. Jamaicans can manage anything. We are one of the greatest people in the world. I want everybody to understand that. We have our problems like anybody else. Khalil, tell them the greatness of the cattle society and what happened. Right, you know what I heard the other day before you even got here? We had our breed society and our registration and all of that even before Canada was.
Of course, no
we
doubt.
had that before Canada had it. Jamaica was on top with TP Lecky and all these great people who you continue, Khalid.
No, but that's the truth. As in, the development of a cattle breed was probably one of the first to be done is actually in Jamaica.
That's
we
correct.
were leaders in the Western Hemisphere in developing our own cattle breed.
Just want to say that again. This little country here, Jamaica, were the leaders. We were the leaders in all of this. We have what it takes here. We have everything here to do it ourselves, and we can do it.
One of the biggest issues that we have to do is that the approach, I think, for small ruminant farmers is totally different from cattle farmers. Before, small ruminant wasn't really making any money. Now with the whole boar genetics, where you have these show goats, we see how expensive these goats are. That's what the Americans and the Canadians did that we never do. They took the breed and turned it into a prized possession.
Yes.
That is why they maintain their breed societies and focus on what you call a boar. What kind of confirmation standards you want to make it a boar. They turned it into an industry. Not until we see it like that, we're going to have this issue, because it's really, as I said, it is not the association. It's farmers who want to turn this into a business, will develop a breed society, bring in the relevant expertise, and get it down to the pot so they can market themselves internationally across the world that we have boar goats here in Jamaica.
Right.
That's just the truth.
That meets international standards.
That meets the standard.
That you have a registry. So the big man, them, the small man, everybody is going to benefit from this record keeping registry and all of that.
And I love what you say it, because I can say this before I've asked a geneticist. Jamaica want to have a small ruminant registry. What you think would be, what you think makes sense? And the geneticist look at me and say, honestly, you guys don't even need a registry. What you guys need is record keeping.
Record keeping. Maxine Brown talk about it so much from Rada.
Because
record keeping.
Because what is important here is that if you cannot tell where this animal come from, who this animal was bred to, if you're not starting there, you're not a breeder.
You have to have this history, and the lineage have to be there from way back, and you have to see what is coming up the line. It's going to help you now make sure you're not crossbreeding, inbreeding, putting genetics in the herd that you don't need, you don't know where you are, you're just putting animals together and you're not sure of anything.
And that's why in 2015 or 16 we started this whole appraisal system. That's not the first we tried to do it. We did a mock one at Bodles.
Yes.
And why we went to Bodles first, because Bodles probably is one of the only farms I see, compared to 1 and 2 farmers who, we try to work together. But Bodles might be the only farm I see that have records showing birth weight, weaning weight, 6 months weight, and who was bred to what. That is probably where, that is why we went to Bodles to say, boy, make us start with a herd that have that kind of data, so we can use now to develop a platform to start the registry for small ruminants. That's why we started at Bodles.
Have you seen that in private sector so deep? I haven't seen it. Me and you go around the place, all over the place, and we know people doing little things, but it's not there from start to finish.
No, we don't see it. We don't have it. I don't think farmers found it very important to keep that type of record system in place to show that this is what we call full-blood or purebred breeders.
Yes.
Because there's a big difference between being a farmer for meat and a farmer for breeding stock.
That's correct.
Breeding stock farmers, record is key.
It is
Verification
rigid.
is rigid.
It is a very rigid thing for you to use the word purebred and use the word full-bred on your farm. It's not everybody can be a breeder.
No, we don't need so much breeders.
And we don't need so much breeders. And you have to have a rigid, Mr. Brown, the farmers, because we don't have a registry, the farmers who are doing this purebred, full-bred, in quotation mark stuff, should be issuing birth certificates.
No doubt. There should be a standard to say, boy, if I'm selling you this particular animal, it comes with some form of verification.
Of course, you have to have that. And if you are not practicing that, then what are you selling? A commercial animal?
That's just the truth. If we're supposed to try to meet up with other persons across the world that does boar goat or Nubian as breed stock. This is a standard. Even in Jamaica here, for the cattle, if you're going to buy from one of these breeder farmers, you get certain level of certification.
Yes.
You can go by borders and check by borders where this animal is coming from. They have all the pedigree records at borders housing these cattle farmers. It's a very similar thing we need for the small ruminant guys.
And I have been to appraisal already, Miss Holiness and all that. And if you go there and you watch, the first time I went there and I was saying to myself, wow, this thing is so intense. You have many people walking around the animals, writing down all kind of things, and they go and they meet, and it's a very serious
And
thing.
decide who make the herd
And
book
decide
or not.
who make it. And one of the things I have to tell you is not everybody is going to meet is going to meet the standard.
That's not even the aim. As in, I think this whole is like they think you put value on your animal.
That's right.
And it's not really even about that. One of the main things about a herd book and why it is important for cattle farmers, because we're developing our own breed.
Right.
You need to have a herd book or a registry to show that you have a breed. And there's a certain amount of numbers you need to have and a certain amount of lines in these breeds so the
Yes.
animal can be registered as a breed. So for example, why we say the Jamaica Hope and the Jamaica Black now might be going out, they might be extinct, is because we don't have the amount of lines and the amount of animals registered in this herd book to call it a breed.
Right.
That's the main thing of these appraisal systems, you know. So for small ruminants, we're going to have to take a different approach. Farmers might want, yes, we want to have purebred genetics, but we can sell internationally. But we also have to think about development of the country. The Australians, yes, they follow the South American guideline, but they tweak it for their commercial purpose. If it's this amount of growth weight they want, if it's this amount of parasite resistance they want, or marbling, they do it to fit their consumer base.
That's
and that
correct.
is how we're going to have to build this same registry, herd book, whatever thing we want to say we're going to set up. Is what Jamaica want. Do we want a Jamaican boar goat?
Yes.
Or do we want this boar goat that we say a full blood, tracing back to the origin? Because there's a market for that in the region to sell these animals considered as full blood. We don't know
Right. We are at a loss.
at this point.
At this point, we are at a loss. And if we don't correct it now, and what I'm doing, I'm looking out for the small farmers, I'm looking out for the medium farmers, I'm looking out for the potential farmers, and I'm looking out for the large farmers. This is for everybody, Khalil. It is for everybody. It is, we need this.
Standard.
We need the standard. And it has to be done. I wanted to find out from you also, Khalil. Do you think there is any full-bred, purebred herd in Jamaica? And can we prove it? Your answer was no, not really.
As in, let's be honest. If we don't have, as I say, I think the only person that can stand up to a certain level of scrutiny outside of few farmers I know is probably our borders, because borders as a government agency have auditing to deal with every year. And because they have auditing to deal with, they have to keep records. How much animal came in, which animal died, who breed to what, and they do have some performance records. I think when David Miller was in charge, that was probably the best time. I think after that, a lot of the things fell down because the technology wasn't passed down to the younger generation and all that type. Succession planning was just poor. So we're in this type of limbo right now.
It's questionable then.
It's very questionable. No, of course.
Very questionable.
Of course it is questionable. Not until our breed farmers, and that's, I'm committed to that, because we're for growing the industry. So now we're having this conversation. My breed farmer who I know out there, who me want to make sure put him out there as probably the next nucleus herd for Jamaica, we're going to start our verifications. Whatever it takes for us to verify that this animal that him have is what it say it is, we have to just go to the books now and start to get it done, because we want to move the sector forward.
Right.
On a standard that is built and can be scrutinized by international. That's what we have to do.
We have to do it.
So the debate over small man not going to get in, no, that's not how the appraisal system work. It's for everybody, but it's what we're going to decide on. What breed type, what are the standards, what confirmations, what are the production parameters we want. And that has been a big problem for even the cattle farmers. The cattle farmers has us focus on the phenotype. There's not much production traits being evaluated in these appraisals. And that is why we're probably not seeing certain productive level of even the Jamaica hope compared to how we see them have the Holsteins. It's because we're just looking at what the animal look like. No production parameters. If you look at Australian selection and breeding criteria, they're down to Famacha. Down if the animal can resist worms is a part of something that they would use to put this animal in them herd book and to build the herd.
This is going to be important because you know my thing. This is also important for the milking goats.
It's very important.
Performance. It's very important.
It has to be performance based.
It has to be performance based.
So not only your breed records are who breed to what, but it's also what and how the animal, the birth weight. I would say it in many videos, guys, collect your birth weight, collect your weaning weight, collect your 6 months weight. All this is important for future evaluation of we developing a herd.
Yes.
It cannot just be done because this animal look like a boar. That's for sure. That's a sure type of evaluation. You have to look for the meat guy and the meat guy and the milk guy, which are production traits.
That's correct.
So the game is going to change completely after this. I was glad that you probably wake up the industry to where it's supposed to go.
Yes.
But we have to get there. This conversation has to be held.
Yes.
And I think it's a perfect time.
Yeah, and you know something too? There are people who are saying we don't need a registry. There are people who are resisting. Remember, I am on the ground, Khalil, and there are people out there say, where we are spend money I do this for? We don't need a registry. We can sell with animal them. We animal them I do alright. We don't need this. People are actually resisting the registry. I feel very strongly that this registry is going to happen now because the funding has been put in place and all of this. So it is going to happen. And I want the farmers out there to be chasing down the registry. That's what I want. I want them to see the importance of it and run it down. People talking about export. How you going to export animals and get good value for money? How you going to ask for big money when you're exporting your animals if you don't have a registry, if you don't have a birth certificate? You ever hear anybody, you think you can travel in the world now without a passport?
No, but it's true. Let us look at even at high-pro semen program. When you come and say you want to buy a shoot and shovel semen from us, we actually have the registration for this animal and we put it on our pamphlet so you know that this animal is coming from. You can go on the American site or the Canadian site, type in this number and see the pedigree of this animal. That is what we want for the sector at this point.
That's correct.
So if it have to start from scratch where yes everything go back up to a unity or go back to a alacha, but at least let us start the foundation for what it takes to say we have breeders in this country. After that we can do everything else now for the meat producers and the milk producers. But make us start on good footing.
We have to start on good footing. And what I want and why the timing is so perfect, because the registry is coming. Farmers, if you are not prepared, if you don't start preparing yourself now, record keeping the weeds, record keeping all day long, performance and all of that. Khalil?
It make no sense.
It make no sense.
The JTC said, Khalil, that you might don't need a registry because guess what? Your farmers not keeping records. So we cannot build. That is where the bias come in.
Yes.
The bias come in when you don't have records to evaluate what it is because it's about take what a man say. And we cannot work off of that.
Can't work off a word amount.
Can't work off a word amount.
We can't go buy a goat and a man say, yeah man, that goat there is a full-bred animal and that goat there is this and it has to have the paperwork. And that's what we're pushing for. And Khalil, I just wanted to say one thing before. Thank you for having you here today. But guess what? When I was younger, you know, Khalil, I was a fool to goat industry. I grew up as a little boy rearing goat. And I was around the place rearing my little goat them and thing. But you know something? Since I have been going to the Small Ruminants Association, training seminars upon training seminars, I have learned so much. I didn't know all of this back when I was a child coming up, even a couple of years ago. I didn't know all of this that we're talking about here now. I was using the word purebred and the full-bred loosely like everybody else because it really never mean anything to me. But you know something? Now, I have learned so much. I remember the first time I met you, Khalil, and Khalil carried me. I never know about all them plant. I said, bro, this brother are coming like an encyclopedia. How him know the bush them so? And him carry me go visit me and show me all I'm plant them and all I'm thing them. And him say, I'm a nutritionist. I said, what? This is how I have evolved and I have learned. I have grown. So my young farmers, me want you grow. That's why I come here and I tell you all these things, because I don't want you to make the mistakes that I made. I made a lot of mistakes when I was coming up into this thing. And Khalil and I and all the positive people in the industry, we want you all to grow, to understand what's happening. Don't be fooled by anybody, and be in a better position to make decisions, Khalil. You know, this is what my end game is. So farmers, I hope this explanation helps. I am here. You're free to call me if there's anything you don't understand. Khalil is here. I am here. We are always here for you to talk to you and explain. Don't follow the rumors and the people who are trying to tear down the industry. We are here to protect this industry, to let the industry grow strong and be better. We want to bring our goat and small ruminant sector to international standards. Thank you so much for watching my channel. Thank Khalil again for helping
Remember
me.
guys, record keeping, that's where we start.
Record
Start
keeping.
with the record keeping.
Record keeping. And this conversation here is the main thrust of this conversation, is how important record keeping is.
That's it.
That's it. That's what it's all about, record keeping. And that is why I threw out all of those statements. Record keeping all day long. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.